Hello everyone, welcome again to this English course for plus 2 first year students. We are discussing about Standing Up for Yourself, written by a Russian writer Yevgeny Yevtushenko. Today we'll be discussing and completing this chapter. In the previous class we discussed about the first and second unit. In the first unit, the writer describes about his condition, how he lives alone because of his parents were divorced and they lived their own life. That's why the writer lives alone in a street of Moscow. And in the second unit, he described about a boy called Red, who is about 16 years of age, but he is beyond his years with big and broad shoulders. Also, he is the ruler of that street. He was the goon. He had some lieutenants with him. He is very dangerous. He wanted to rule the street, and he rules the street. Okay, and he can get money from everyone. He can. He's like a king. Okay, he's like a king. He's like a ruler of the street, and everyone is afraid of Red. बुझिपार फास्ट यूनिट रे से डिस्क्राइब राइटर डिस्क्राइब करते केमिति तांगर बापा और माँ को सेपरेशन हो जाइतला डाइवोर्स हो जाइतला सेति से माने अलगा रहउतले आ राइटर एकुटिया ही मस्को रो गोटे स्ट्रीट रे रहउतले ठीक अच्छे तो राइटर थिले से एकुटिया रहउतले आ से तांगर जो स्ट्रीट अछि से गली रो बहुत जिंस सिखिथिले सेकंड यूनिट रे हमें पढिथिले जे राइटर केमिति गोटे पिला रेड बोली गोटे पिला रो डिस्क्रिप्शन दउचंती रेड केमिति डिफरेंट टेक्निक्स रे से तारो से स्ट्रीट को रूल करतला तारो पॉकेट रे सब बेले गोटे नकल डस्टर रहउतला बहुत डेंजरस थिला बहुत हट्टा कट्टा और बड़ हेकि थिला से तारो एज रो बड़ देखा जाउतला ठीक अछि तारो लेफ्टिनेंट माने दि चारटा थिले तारो पछरे पछरे बोलतले से माने जो भी पिला को मारी की पिटी की तांगठो टंका छड़ी की नहीं जाउतले एंड दिस इज द रीजन व्हाई एवरीवन अफ्रेड ऑफ रेड एंड हिज लेफ्टिनेंट्स ओके नेक्स्ट कौन है देखवा आई वांटेड टू कंकर माय फियर ऑफ रेड सो व्हाट हैपेंड एवरीवन वाज अफ्रेड ऑफ रेड सो द राइटर ही वांटेड टू कंकर द फियर ऑफ रेड रेड रो जो फियर अछि डर अछि ताको conquer to victory to be a victorious to be victorious of that fear okay so fear को conquer करवा conquer माने जीनिबा जीतिबा राइट तो से conquer करवा पई से fear को डर को जीतिबा पई चाहुतले so I wrote a poem about him I wrote a poem about Red and this was my first piece of journalism in verse. Verse means in a poetic manner. Okay, in a poetic manner, this was my first piece of journalism. Journalism is something, journalism is reporting something which is not going well. जोटा ठीक चली नहीं किसी गोटा भूल होची ताको रिपोर्ट करवाटा को जर्नलिज्म को आ जाए सांबादिकता आ एटा गोटे मोर फास्ट सांबादिकता थिला ये भी सांबादिक ही से कथा ही कले माने रेड पिला जे कि गुंडागिरी करूची सब आडे से गुंडागर्दी रो एग्नेस्ट रे से कहउचंती तो गोटे टाइप रो जर्नलिज्म ही करूचंती बट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वर्स इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पोएम ही इज डूइंग द जर्नलिज्म okay he wrote a poem and by the next day the whole street knew it by heart whole street knew the poem by heart and exulted with triumphant hatred. Exulted means showed great joy and excitement. Everyone in the street, they know the poem by heart and they exulted, they showed great joy and excitement and triumphant hatred. Hatred means घृणा करिवाटा, hate करिवाटा. Triumphant means with a satisfaction, with great joy or satisfaction, they hated the boy. There was hatred for Red in that poem, and because of that, everybody remembered it, by-hearted it, and everybody started to sing the poem. बुझी पारछ रेड रो उपरे जो समस्त डर थिला से डर को जितवा पई राइटर कौन कहले गोटे पोएम लिखिले आउ से लोक माने तार रेड उपरे एते डरी कि थिले जे समस्त सब पिला माने लोक माने एठी पिला मानकर ग्रुप को आगुचे सब पिला मानकर ग्रुप से पोएम को बाय हार्ट कर देले आ समस्त ग्रेट जॉय ग्रेट सैटिस्फैक्शन रो सहित जो हेट्रेड पोएम थिला रेड विषय रे ताको बाय हार्ट करके गाइबा को लागिले सो एबे कोन हेछि ना राइटर से उड़ंता किला को डाकी आनछ माने से रेड को समस्त डरी के रखछन्ते से रेड विषय रे पोएम लिखि करी ताको फेमस कर दै छन्ते एबे कोन हबो देखो एबे कोन तारो पेनल्टी मिलिबो ताको बुझिबा वन वार्निंग on my way to school I suddenly came upon Red and his lieutenants okay that is obviously going to happen on his way to school he came across Red and his lieutenant his eyes seemed to bore through me his eyes seemed to bore through me this means the eyes it was very angry look that was there in the eyes of the Red and he says the poet he drawled means to say slowly with longer vowel sound को लंबा करके slowly कहबाटा माने the poet he started to smile crookedly means very villainously right he smiled villainously and he said the poet so you write verses do they rhyme so say the boy the goon Red he said you write verses okay do your verses rhyme they rhyme with each other you write a poem about me Red's hand darted into his pocket Red's hand went straight to his pocket and came out armed with knuckle duster as we know the knuckle duster I described about this knuckle duster in the previous class that this is a weapon okay that is wore on the hand in the fingers and it is very deadly it is made up of metal and it is used to punch it is used to punch with it and injure the opponent okay now Red has a knuckle duster in his pocket so suddenly Red's hand darted into the pocket and the hand came out with knuckle duster से हाथ तो पूरे की बाहर कला बेलको knuckle duster काढिला and it flashed like lightning and stuck my head it flashed like lightning भलिया बिजुली भलिया चालिला and stuck in my head I fell down streaming with blood and lost consciousness so with one blow the blood started to oozing out from the head and the writer fell down and lost consciousness बेहोश हो गले गोटिए माडरे से नकल डस्टर रो गोटिए माडरे मुंड फाटीगला ब्लड बाहरला आ से तळे पड़ीगले बेहोश होके this was my first remuneration as a poet remuneration means payment this was my first payment or this was my first achievement as a journalist or as a poet मोर फर्स्ट दरमा थिला द फर्स्ट वेतन थिला एटा फर्स्ट इनकम थिला माने से पोएम लिखिले फर्स्ट टाइम पोएम लिखिला रो तांको मिलला पाउना तांको मिलला कोन मनी और तांको रिवार्ड मिलला पोएम पे कोन रिवार्ड मर्डर रिवार्ड तापरे कोन होबो देखिबा कोन राइटर हार मान जिवे ना राइटर आउ थरे उठिगिरी फाइट करबे I spent several days in bed after that she was so badly injured he spent several days in bed and when I went out with my head still bandaged I again saw red I spent several days in bed बहुत दिन बेड रे पड़ी रही and when I went out जतबे बाहर को बाहरली with my head still bandaged I again saw red आउ थरे saw red को देखली I struggled with myself but lost and took to my heels. Okay, I struggled with myself. ମୁଁ ନିଜ ସହିତ struggle କଲି ଯେ ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ face କରିବି. I started to gather my courage, but I lost. ମାନେ ସେ ସାହସ ହେଲାନି ତାକୁ. And took to my heels. Took my heels means I ran away from the situation. ମାନେ ମାଡ଼ ଖାଇଲେ ଉଠିକି କିଛି ଦିନ ପରେ ବାହାରକୁ ବାହାରିଲେ, ରେଡ୍ କୁ ଦେଖିଲେ, फाइटिंग करबी आकु देखे देबी बोल भाबिले भितरे, बट he did not have the courage, so he ran, पळेले, धाइकी पळेले. At home I rolled on my bed. At home I rolled on my bed, bed रे पड़ी की रोल लेली, and I started to bite my pillows with anger. रागी की मोर पिलो को तकिया को चोबेवा को लागिले, and pondering it in shame. Pondering means thinking about it in shame. Thinking about the situation in shame. लाजो लागुला ताको माडो खाई के पळा आसले हला जो पोएम लेखिले से पोएम पई से ठिया ही पारले नै, पोएम खाली लेखिले पोएम पई माडो खाई के पळा आसले. So I rolled up in my bed, biting my pillow, pondering it in shame and impotent fury at my cowardice. So तांगर जो cowardiceness थिला माने भीरुता थिला, कावर्ड थिले से डर लागुतला तांको रेड पाई सामना करि पारले ने, माडो खाइले आउ थोड़े सेकंड टाइम ठिया हे कि तांको तार सामना करि पारले ने, धाई के पड़ेले से कावर्डिस पाई से सेम फील करतले, लाज लागुतला. I made up my mind on that day. He made up his mind to vanquish at whatever cost, to vanquish, to defeat completely, to defeat the cowardiceness, to defeat the fear in his heart. तांगरो जो मन रे थिबा fear को, मन रे थिबा cowardiceness को, भीरुता को vanquish करिवा पय, defeat करिवा पय से decide कले. The writer made up his mind, the writer decided to vanquish, to defeat his fear, to completely defeat his fear. Okay, then what happened? I went into training. Now before going to fight, he had to train. He cannot face red all alone without any training. So the writer started training himself with parallel bars and weights. Parallel bars माने rod और weight, माने rod रे weight लगे करी लिफ्टिंग करा जाएगी ना, वेट लिफ्टिंग करा जाए तो स्ट्रेंथन योर मसल्स, तमरा मसल्स को स्ट्रेंथन करबा पई बार एंड वेट्स रे ताके ट्रेनिंग करबाटा स्टार्ट कले. आफ्टर एवरी सेशन I would feel my muscles, they were getting bigger. After every day, every session, he can feel that his muscles are getting bigger and bigger, but they are getting bigger slowly. Then he remembered, देखिले से ट्रेनिंग करूचंती, मसल्स बढ़ुचे बट बहुत स्लो रे बढ़ुचे, एमती हेले तांको वर्ष लागि जिवो नै. Then he remembered something that he had read in a book about a miraculous Japanese method of wrestling. He had read somewhere about a Japanese method of wrestling which gave an advantage to the weak over strong. तांको मने पड़ला जे से गोटे कौन से बुक रे पढ़ी थिले जे गोटे जापानीज रेसलिंग टेक्निक अछि. से जापानीज रेसलिंग टेक्निक वीक लोक को स्ट्रांग लोकर एग्नेस्ट एडवांटेज दिए. माने वीक लोक जदि से जापानीज टेक्निक सिखि जिवो, से जापानीज टेक्निक सिखि गले से स्ट्रांग लोक को भी हरै परिबो. So he read somewhere about that technique. So what happened? I exchanged a week's ration card for a textbook on jiu-jitsu. I exchanged a week's ration card. एकला लोक तांके टंका को फांडवे तो गोटे वीक रो रेशन कार्ड जे सेतबेले से रशियन यूनाइटेड माने सोवियत रूस रो समय रे जो गरीब लोकों को बा जो पिला माने अनाथ पिला को रेशन कार्ड दिया जाए ताकि से रेशन कार्ड रो खाइबे जाई कि रेशन मिलबो ताको. तो से गोटे सप्ताह रो रेशन फ्री रे एमते दे दले कोन पई टू गेट अ बुक, टेक्स्ट बुक ऑन jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the Japanese technique that he was talking about. Okay, This is the Japanese technique, jujitsu. माने 1 वीक रो राशन कार्ड को एक्सचेंज करिके तार बदल रे से गोटे टेक्स्ट बुक किनिले jujitsu, and this jujitsu book or jujitsu technique is a Japanese technique which can be used which when learned by a weak man, he can defeat a strong person. गोटे वीक लोक को एडवांटेज मिल जिवो jujitsu सिखिले. For 3 weeks I stayed at home. For 3 weeks he stayed at home practicing with 2 other boys. Then I went out. For 3 weeks 3 सप्ताह जाए से घरे रहिले आउ दीटा पिला संगे प्रैक्टिस कले and then he came out. देखो माडो खाई के उठले गले डर लागला धाई पड़ेले तापर डिसाइड कले एनी हाउ ताको हरेबी मसल प्रैक्टिस कला हला कोन बार्स एंड वेट्स रे प्रैक्टिस कला बहुत स्लो रे मसल से बाहर छे तापर से कहला नहीं जे जुजित्सु बही किन के आनला राशन कार्ड बेकी करे जुजित्सु बही आनला तो बही रो आनी करे से राइटर कोन कला से पिला राइटर से पिला थिले तो छोटो पिला थिले से समय रे से ताको कोन प्रैक्टिस कला 3 वीक धरि के तापरे बाहरला. Red was sitting on the lawn in our yard playing wing at un with his left hands. Red was sitting on the lawn in the yard. Yard रे जो lawn अछि पडिया अछि जे जगह अछि, he was sitting there and he was playing wing at un. Wing at un is a card game. Okay, गोटे कार्ड गेम खेलुछि तार लेफ्टिनेंट मान संगे. He was absorbed in the game. He was very busy. He was very busy and he was very into the game. Okay, से बहुत व्यस्त थिला बहुत इंटरेस्ट रो सहित से देखुतला. Okay, fear was still deep in me. Fear was still deep in me. Writer is saying it was not like I have no fear. Yes, there was fear and fear is deep within me, urging me to go back. Fear mate कहउतला मोर भितरे fear थिला and fear was telling me to go back, not to face Red. But I went up. But mu gali. He went up to the players. He went up to the players of Wingathon. Okay, and kicked and scattered the cards. He kicked the card. The cards were all scattered. Yard side padiola. Red looked up. Red was playing card. Writer came, he kicked the table, he threw the cards and Red looked up. Okay, he was surprised at my impudence after my recent flight. Impudence means disrespect or rudeness. He is surprised how this tiny boy he is challenging me after his recent flight. In few days ago he came to Red to fight him, but he fled. But now what happened? He is coming to me and challenging me. He got up slowly. Red got up slowly, looking for and said, "You looking for more? You looking for some more punches?" He asked maniacingly. Maniacingly means threatening manner. Threatening करके ताको पचारला, "You looking for more? You want more?" As before, his hand dived into the pocket for knuckle duster and कहकि you want more कहकि you are looking for more कहकि his hand dived into the pocket for knuckle duster. तार knuckle duster पाई pocket रे पुरौतला. But I made a quick jabbing movement and Red, howling in with pain, rolled on the ground. But before he could pull out the knuckle duster, so knuckle duster काढिबा आगरु the writer made a jabbing movement माने मारी गोटे माडो मारले. Red कोनाला howling with pain, crying with pain, he rolled on the ground. So पार्टी करिके ग्राउंड रे पडिगला. Bewildered, he got up and came at me, swinging his head furiously from side to side like a maddened bull. Bewildered means puzzled. Bewildered means puzzled. In a puzzled manner, in a confused manner, he got up Red got up, utila, and came at me, swinging his head sidewise. In the sidewise तारो head को swing करी करी in just like a maddened bull. Bull माने कौन षंढ, maddened माने पागल हो जाइथिबा षंढ, माने mad bull गोटे पागल हो जाइथिबा षंढ गोटे केनते आसीबो मुंड को हलै गिरे सिंते आसीला. I caught his wrist and squeezed slowly as I had read in the book. Jujitsu book रे जे जेमिति पढ़ी थिला सेनि तार हाथ को धरी किरी ताको स्क्वीज कला स्लो रे until the knuckle duster dropped from his limp fingers. His fingers became injured. Okay, his fingers did not act accordingly, and the knuckle duster fell on the ground. Nursing his hand, caring for his hand, Red fell down again. Red तार हाथ को धरी किरी आउ थरे पड़ी गला. He was sobbing and smearing with tears. Smearing with tears. He was sobbing, कांदुथुला, and smearing with tears. पूरा तार लुह झरिबा को लागिला. कारो Red रो. And his tears streamed down over his pock-marked face with his gubby fist. He streamed the tears. से tear लुह पछवा को लागिला with his with his gubby fist. Gubby means dirty. पड़ी करे जो fist तार हाथ तो dirty ही जाइतिला. That dirty fist, with that dirty fist, he started to wipe up the tear. That day, Red ceased to be the monarch of the street. Sei dino ठारो Red ceased to be the monarch of our street. Se amra street ro monarch होबा को monarch होबा हला नहीं. Red ceased to be the monarch of our street. Amra street ro amra गली रो monarch au hela नहीं. Monarch means king. Okay. And from that day on, I knew for certain that one need not to fear the strong. And from that day, I knew, the writer knew, that one need not to be fearful of the strong. जने strong अच्छी बोले ताकू डरिबो नहीं केबे भी. All one needs is to know the way to beat them. If someone is stronger than you at any field in your life, not just for fighting, okay, at any field, whether it is study, whether it is work or any other thing, if someone is strong, don't fear. All you need to know is how to beat them. For every strong man, there is a special jujitsu. सबो strong लोक पई गोटे jujitsu अछि. जेमते रेड को हरेबा पई jujitsu थिला मते हेल्प कला. सबो फील्ड पई गोटे jujitsu थिबो. माने सबो फील्ड पई गोटे टेक्निक थिबो. से टेक्निक को खोजो, टेक्निक को सीखो, प्रैक्टिस करो, and don't fear of the strong. What I also learned on this occasion was that to be a poet, I also learned one more thing in this occasion, that to be a poet, I had not only to write poems, but know how to stand up for them. I just, to be a poet, I had to write poems, and not just writing poem, but I have to stand up for them. खाली poem लेखिले हबो नहीं, poem सहित हमको stand up करबा पड़िबो बा poem सहित हमको चलबा पड़िबो. तेबे एका जाई कि आमे ट्रूली गोटे fearless person हे परिबा. ट्रूली गोटे कोन एमिति लोक सक्सेसफुल लोक हे परिबा. जदि आमे सब बेले खाली डरी डरी थिबा, then we will not become successful. Okay, तमे आज आकु डरुचो, काली को आउ के आसीबा तुमको डरेबो, आउ के आसके डरेबो. जदि तमे ठीक अछ, you have to stand up with you have to stand up for yourself. Okay, if you are not wrong, if you are correct, you have to stand with it. You have to stand with the decision. पूरा दुनिया एग्नेस्ट हेले भी तमे तमरो डिसीजन पे स्टैंड करवारे छ. जदि तमे जानिचो सेटा ठीक. Okay, so that was the story, that was the prose, standing up for yourself. Okay, it was a beautiful prose written by a Russian writer, Yevgeny Yevtushenko. Okay, Yevgeny Yevtushenko, he is a poet, novelist, essayist, dramatist, film director, editor, actor, a lot of things. Okay, now In the next session, we'll discuss about the question answers that were there in this units. Okay, before that, you give it a reading again, okay, and try to understand the topic. If you have any doubts, you can contact me in the Telegram group. जदि किसी भी डाउट अच्छे, किसी भी तुमको कहबार अच्छे, माने किसी सजेशन दबार अच्छे, किसी फीडबैक दबार अच्छे क्लास पाई, तुम दे परिवा आप रे मेसेज करके मते किंबा टेलीग्राम ग्रुप रे. आज पाई नेक्स्ट क्लास में सिवा. टिल देन बाय, हैव ए नाइस डे. बाय एवरीवन.